that's what we are attempting today in a very brief period of time, is to help you sort of get into that mindset of, okay, what is it that I need to solve for across all channels of my business and across, you know, my stakeholder groups on an internal and external level. And so that, of course, in assessing the situation, we have to look at the social impact of what's happened over the last several months. And we'll share some information in that regard as it relates to consumers and behaviors of different audiences. Certainly the economic impact to you and your business is something that we want to talk about. And then how technology and technology transformation can be used to your advantage, and just some, you know, things to think about when you're assessing your situation and determining where you need to go and how you need to prioritize. And then we go into, this is really sort of the meat of the presentation, the e-business versus e-commerce and the differences, and why this is more of an e-business conversation in terms of future-proofing your company or your business. It's more about e-business than it is about e-commerce. And then a great tool for you, a risk assessment matrix that will help you in sorting out, you know, what you need to solve for, so you can then put in effective strategies dealing with how to solve for it.
So, as Betsy mentioned, we're going to talk about the differences between digitization and the title of this, you know, session is called Digitizing Your Business, right? And there's an evolution that you'll follow, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. We also have, I just want to make a quick plug, which Nan will tell you more about at the end, but make a quick plug that the altitude that we're going to fly at today for this conversation is about the 30,000 foot view. So we realize that a lot of you probably have a ton of burning desires and questions around, you know, to Betsy's point, what should I do now? You know, the scope, the landscape has changed so dramatically that you're really, you know, feeling, you know, a need to, you know, a call to action, right? And so we want to acknowledge that, but we also want to say that, you know, you're also facing very similar concerns and questions and challenges that lots of other businesses are. And you know, I want to encourage you guys, you know, we are helping you build for tomorrow. That's a big part of what this presentation is for. It is a journey, it is a path, helping you prioritize the key actions that you can take to move from digitization, which is really a conversion of a lot of your current business processes, to automation, right? And then digitalization is, okay, well, maybe I'm a small business owner, or maybe I think we had some Tate real estate agent on the invite list. And if you're a Tate real estate agent and you're thinking, how can I escalate my business? Gosh, COVID-19 really caused a lot of people to be concerned about touring homes during this time. What are the steps I can take? Can we do virtual tours, right? And so a lot of real estate agents are launching virtual tours of homes. And what does that, you know, shift to your business look like as you meet and serve the needs of your clients and customers? So digitalization is really the adaptation of all those processes. You know, maybe there's a migration that's happening, and we'll unpack this more in some future slides. Maybe there's a migration that's happening in your industry that has created a shift to digital, and that shift may not ever go back, right? So it's not just about converting physical experiences into digital ones. It really is about understanding how the shifts in your industry impact future-proofing your business. So ultimately, the end stage is digital transformation. And so that's much broader and much bigger than just e-commerce. So we wanted to make that clarification at the onset of this and really talk about, you know, digitizing your business is the utilization of technology to help optimize experiences and drive revenue, but also to give you business agility. So we'll talk a lot about, you know, response time and being able to move quickly. Okay, Betsy, I think this one is we're going to both do this, but we've come to our first poll question. So we've got the chat up, and this is a place where we really want to get some feedback from you guys and encourage you to chat with us. And you know, if you put something awesome in the chat, we hope that we can take you off mute and maybe have a quick dialogue, right? So you'll see the question there, which is, what are you doing now with your external and internal target audiences that you were not doing prior to COVID-19? So just for some thought prompters, there's, you know, this is around the social impact piece, right? It's how is that customer experience different? Have you modified the number of touch points or the types of touch points that you have in your customer journey? Are you deploying tools and resources for worker enablement so that we don't just think about this as work from home, but it's really work from anywhere, right? Yeah, virtual meetings. Thanks, Anne. Yes. Tammy said you're holding virtual benefits orientations for new hires. I mean, that's incredible. So
I like the selfie videos. That's really neat.
Yeah, Clayton, that's really cool. You know, one of the things that at ScanSource, I'll just pepper in here, and this will help hopefully be like a thought prompter for you guys too. We have launched a new SMS platform at ScanSource, and we had, you know, a lot of our sales agents came to us and said, I'd really love a one-on-one way to reach out to my clients, right? And so maybe I want to send them a YouTube video link every day, you know, just kind of checking in with them, or, you know, sharing something funny and just having that human connection. And so virtual and digital onboarding. So that's fantastic. I think, you know, we have needed ways to be able to connect with people during this time. You know, especially if you're a new hire coming into an organization, it really is about the care and compassion, because as you can imagine, a lot of people have anxiety about what's the hiring process look like in this new norm. Clayton says that you also created a direct mail care package that you send to clients with the Grubhub gift card. And I think that's phenomenal. We're seeing a lot of people use team meetings to share their favorite recipes, and also have, you know, snacks delivered for certain sessions. And so that's just a great way to keep people engaged in a new way, right? It is about connection, and it's about creating an experience, a memorable one that people will connect you with.
And to Nan's earlier point, you know, sort of the overarching theme around this is that, you know, during a time where it's very uncertain and there are no solid, you know, answers to all the questions that we have, the care aspect, I mean, that's the theme that I see through all of the comments about things that people are doing now that maybe they weren't doing before. And that's just such an integral part of a customer experience journey, and is certainly a strategy that will only pay huge dividends, you know, when continued into the future in all of your activity.
Yeah, and so without, you guys are sharing some amazing things, so I just wanted to thank you for engaging with us. Joseph said that, you know, we're sharing partner-facing videos, you know, about people being happy and productive in their homes, and I think that's critical. You know, we've really taken strides forward in the business world, demonstrating that people can work anywhere, and that we can still be highly productive. And there are a lot of great resources and tools that can help you track productivity. We also are seeing things like pulse surveys that are going out to employees just to determine, you know, are they healthy and happy, and how are they coping with this? And you know, there's a in this shift to, you know, being always on and work being in your home, a lot of people are having trouble really balancing work-life balance in that environment. And so having care and compassion, as Betsy said, is just so crucially important. Zoo camp, that's really cool. care packages and activities to do through the week. And I think that's really important because that is having an impact on worker enablement. Okay, we're going to continue on. So this is a slide that really demonstrates, customer client behaviors and some changes that we see. We wanted to provide you with a resource from Hero Digital. This is a graph and a survey that they've been doing around the activities and how those have shifted and what these shifts in behavior really mean to preferences and how they drive the way that people engage with your businesses. And so understanding these really minute shifts and changes help you respond in a way that is genuine as a company and responds from a place of authenticity. And so as you can see, there's a lot of, the breakdown by demographic is by age. And so you can see the activities in the vertical and the ages horizontally. And so this really gives you some indices and some indications about ways that people want to connect with each other, the fact that work has become such a prevalent part of everybody's life. They're increasing the amount of work that they're doing at home, but then there's some opportunity for some fun and also, some spikes in shopping and home exercising. So if you're, in businesses where you can tap into some of this insight, understanding these changes helps you respond in a way that meets them where they're at, right? Okay, so Betsy, I've got to exit out of chat. I'm sorry, I can't see the content that I'm trying to share, so I'll
Yeah, I'll keep it.
Okay. Okay. So this graph is really designed to show you. You'll see the first time or significant increase in behavior on the left side, and then the horizontal plane is what they plan to continue doing after COVID-19 when there's no longer a threat. And we don't know what, how long that time frame is going to be, but I feel like this is a really important graph to share with you to say, there are some customer behaviors and trends that are emerging that may never go back, right? So you hear people say, what's the new norm? Well, this slide really addresses that. There are some key, industries and verticals that have forever taken a shift. So we want to talk to you guys about, the way that these new norms impact the way you engage with your company, and how do these expectations impact your service and delivery models, virtual doctor check-ins, visits. There's a lot of telemedicine that's really emerged. Hospitals have been encouraging us to go to telemedicine rather than coming into the hospital or to go to a doctor's office. And so that convenience factor has forever shifted the way that we interact, right, with medical. And the same thing, prescriptions can be electronic. Your personal health care files are electronic, right? We've even seen a lot of gyms shift their model once gyms were closed to virtual workout services and service-based models. Online grocery shopping, you'll see another slide where we unpack that a little bit more, but we see businesses who are entering into that digital equation, some that are on the cusp, and then those that are everyday digital, right? And so that's kind of the three different quadrants that you see there. Banking and online banking is not going backwards. People really need that convenience factor and the contactless engagement, right? Video chats with families, obviously we've all been quarantined, so that was really impactful.
Dion, I just wanted to add one thing, in looking at this, if you'll go back to the slide, in looking at this, just because it says streaming movies and that's something, people plan to continue, and you don't, you're not a theater, but think about the behavior and why people will stream movies, and maybe there's an application to a strategy that you can deploy that involves streaming video of some sort. So if they're using that activity, you know, the same with online grocery shopping. Well, what behaviors does that indicate as it relates to consumers? And convenience is one, safety is another. And so, you know, maybe there are applicable strategies in your particular industry where you could deploy an initiative that is similar to online grocery shopping. It may not be online grocery shopping. And so if you look at the why behind the behavior, that may point to some very creative things that you could do within your own businesses.
Yeah, that's a good call out, Betsy. Just, you know, on the note of video, video is 4 times more engaging on your website than even an infographic. And so, you know, there's different ways to appeal visually to your audiences. A lot of your email platforms accept and embed videos. And so what you would have said with a lot of words can be communicated very easily and quickly and in a more engaging way with video. Okay, we're gonna come up, by the way, you guys were like champs on the first round for the live poll question. We're gonna send another one your way, which is, hey, and Joseph, I hope you have some really good stuff for us here. What analytics and data insights are you currently using to gauge COVID-19's impact on your business? So we're really talking about, you know, are you able to measure performance management and how are you doing that? Are you able to understand the reach? Lisa actually had a really great comment in the first round of chats about global digitalization. And Lisa, this is a great example that I'll use here. You talked about how you're collaborating with virtual tours for, you know, audits that you're doing in Italy. And I think that's phenomenal. Those audits would have typically happened in person. And so that's just a prime example of, you know, some data and analytics that you're using to gauge your impact.
Yeah, and again, back to the you know, the information, even if it's not your own information, even if it's information that you are getting from research that you're doing on the internet or through associations that you may be a member of, you know, information is what helps you determine the what, which helps you determine the how you're going to solve. And so, you know, there are certain things to do to measure impact, and that's just a very, you know, that's just a very important strategic initiative, because information, as they say, is power.
Yeah. And so, you know, one of the questions I know that at ScanSource we've been talking a lot about is, how do you know, what are the steps that you should take to reintroduce people back into the office? And so do you have the right kinds of analytics and data insights to give you that kind of input, right? How do we keep, if we're putting the safety of our employees as a top priority because they are one of our most valuable assets, how are we, what's the decision-making process that we will use to bring people and reintroduce them back into the workforce? So, Betsy, are you seeing any comments come up in the chat?
I'm not. Well, there's one from Joseph.
Thanks, Joseph.
It's communicating to the different teams within an organization, or that could be within your industry, and offer to evangelize and share their performance metrics with other teams.
Yeah, so one of the things that we'll talk about this course, this session today, again, is that 30,000 foot view, but we have a series that's coming up after this. It's a certificate program, and so we have an entire session dedicated to analytics and data insights. And so we'll really be talking about unpacking the types of tools that you can use to help drive real-time insights. And so what I'll say about that is that there's data, and nobody has a shortage of data, but taking that data and creating insights, that's the next stage of it. So what KPIs are important, and then the last stage is actioning that insight. And so we'll talk about how you do that, different tools that you can use along the way.
Yeah, and is anybody doing any kind of customer service survey or customer satisfaction or any type of outreach with your clients or customers? I've gotten a lot of, just personally, whenever I interact with a company, a lot of, requests for, please rate your experience, please, much more so than please rate the product, is please rate your experience. And that's what a lot of your larger retailers seem to be focusing on, which is interesting.
Yeah, and so to take what Betsy's saying and then apply it to your business, one of the things that we see is, we're watching stock outs very closely. And that has been a very real, if you're in the retail space, that's been a very real concern lately, that the inventory management piece, that you do have inventory stock on, and creating notifications within your systems, and driving automation to help you notify and then be able to message so that you can manage, to Betsy's point, you can manage that expectation up front and say, hey, this is out of stock, but we have a similar replacement that we can provide. Or if you're waiting on restocks, that you just expose that with transparency to say, hey, we will be back in stock on XYZ date. We are able to take, take back orders at this time, right? And we'll fulfill it as soon as that's possible. So I think when we talk about small, medium, even large businesses, missing that revenue opportunity is very tough for a small business, right? Because that's your stream of revenue. And so if you think about a missed opportunity due to stock out, you want to minimize that from happening as much as possible. And so allowing for back orders, if you know that your supply chain is strong there, that's something that we would encourage, right? So that's just a great example of having analytics around, stock outs and inventory levels, and then being able to take action against that.
And Dion, why don't you expand on the service industry part too, since we have, several participants.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I think, one of the things from a service industry perspective is really understanding how many people you want to have and make appointments. And so I think about, the DMV, right? And one of the great things that they've done, although albeit I'm a little nervous about it, is they understood that there were so many people who already had appointments made for driver's license tests. And that this is obviously a major rite of passage. And so they instituted the ability to provide driver's licenses to new people if they pass written exams, right? And so I think that's just a great pivot that shows us, hey, we are able to leverage online capability to take those appointments and shift them to a digitization. And so that's just a great example of responsiveness and using the data and insights they had around appointments and being able to translate that into a solution.
Yeah.
Is there another one that's top of mind, Betsy, that you want to chat about?
I think that's it, unless anybody has questions or comments.
Okay.
Please put those in the chat.
Yep. All right. So
All right.
Pass off to you, Betsy.
Yeah, sure. So again, we have this care theme that we're seeing in all of our personal and business transactions. And I don't, that's probably not going away. That's probably something that, as I noted earlier, is a good practice to have and keep in all of your strategies as sort of an underlying theme. And I want to point to a really great piece of information that E&Y put out about consumer behaviors that are emerging, and we're happy to share this with you after the webinar, but I'm going to read from this because it's a lot of information and I want to, cover it as thoroughly as possible. But basically, there are 4 new consumer segments that have emerged, and they're Cut Deep, Stay Calm, Carry On, Save and Stockpile, and Hibernate. And in this study that they did, they noted that 42% of respondents believe that the way they shop will fundamentally change as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. And just to sort of expand on these segments and sort of the persona around each of these segments, looking at the Cut Deep segment, these consumers are mainly more than 45 years old and have seen the biggest impact on their employment status. Almost a quarter have seen their jobs suspended either temporarily or permanently. 78% of them are shopping less frequently, while 64% are only buying essentials. 33% feel that brands are far less important to them in the current climate, which is very interesting given, you know, what we do and how much we do to support our brands and our brand positioning. The Stay Calm, Carry On segment, these consumers do not feel directly impacted by the pandemic and are not changing their spending habits. Just 21% of them are spending more on groceries compared with 18% that are spending less. Save and Stockpile, this segment shows particular concern for their families and the long-term outlook. More than a third, 36%, are now spending more on groceries, while most are spending less on clothing at 72% and leisure, 85%. And then Hibernate and Spend, primarily aged 18 to 44, these consumers are most concerned about the impact of the pandemic. However, only 40% of this segment say they are shopping less frequently. And while 42% say the products they buy change significantly, 46% of them say brands are now more important to them. So you see how it's sort of, it's all over the place in terms of how people react, and, you know, that's driven by demographic, geographic, and other factors. And this study goes on to say that 5 new segments may emerge as consumers move beyond the pandemic. And for instance, the Save and Stockpile segment will migrate to 2 new segments, meaning remain frugal and cautiously extravagant. These new consumer segments, detailed in the index, could emerge post-COVID-19 and be summarized as keep cutting, stay frugal, get to normal, cautiously extravagant, and back with a bang. And so, again, it's a really interesting study, and I think shed some light on how consumer behavior is shifting and reacting to what's going on with COVID-19, and then preparing for the future beyond.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, the reason we wanted to share this information, and we'll make sure that you guys have a copy of the Ernst & Young Future Consumer Index. Joseph also just shared a really great resource, so we'll try to package some of that up after this session, and make sure that you guys have those resources. The reason we wanted to expose these, you know, these indices to you is, you know, this behavior is you know, how you can respond to the Hibernate and Spend, you know, that, or the Stay Calm and Carry On group. I think about you, Lisa, when you're planning trips and excursions, and also some of the real estate folks that are on the phone, and some of the banking folks that are on the phone as well, or on the call. Those, you know, that behavior is, people will proceed cautiously, but as it relates to your customer journey, it may take them some more touch points to be convinced, because they're going to be in that information gathering session in a consideration state for a lot longer before they transact. And so just understanding the types of information that help drive and create conversion will help you understand how to better map out your process. So we'll be talking a lot more about that in the certificate program. But you know, this Save and Stockpile folks, you know, great takeaway there. As you know, Betsy and I were talking about the content for this. One of the great things to think about for that group and that segment is, you know, they really like things to be on subscription. And so if you can introduce a subscription model to your business that automatically ships things and people can opt into something like that, you've got a steady stream of recurring revenue, right? The Cut Deep folks, one comment that we wanted to make here is that, they are experiencing a time of crisis. And so the companies that are emerging and saying, yes, we have to furlough employees, but we've created this group of resources to help people, give them the care that they need, and we're treating them as human beings, right? Furloughs sometimes are unfortunate, and as business people, you may have to make a decision that just doesn't sit right with your consciousness. And we understand that you're making some really tough decisions right now. As you do that and as you go through it, we've seen a lot of companies extend that care and compassion and say, hey, we built a website and we're going to create a place, a repository for all of the employees' resumes who were impacted. And we're going to evangelize that website so that if you are hiring, these are some great people that we're referring, right? This is a talented group of folks, and we're invested in trying to help them find their next opportunity. And so just really, there are lots of, even in Greenville, South Carolina, there are lots of websites that are being developed for people who are out of work. And so I think that's just a phenomenal thing. And I would encourage all of us on this call, if you are able to, and you know of somebody who, needs a new opportunity, just share that on social media, evangelize that, really help them get placement, because it's unfortunate that a lot of people are being negatively impacted right now. Betsy, is there anything else you want to say on that slide before we go to the next one?
No, I just would encourage everybody it's a great article, one of the best I've read lately. So good information.
So we move into, we've learned a lot about these segments, right? And now it's important to say, okay, well, within the pocket of people who are spending, what are they spending money on, and how are they engaging, right? And so this just gives you an idea of the impact of the spenders. And 2 out of 3 younger consumers that's classified as 34 and under actually report ramping up their spending. And so, you can see sort of some steadiness, right, between the 35 to 54 age ranges. Probably going to come as no surprise to you that that 63.2% increase in online grocery, food, drink spending. And so that's not just the Instacarts of the world. That's also a lot of local, businesses. And so curbside pickup has helped a lot of businesses stay afloat. Contactless, interaction, right? And so that's become, and that industry has responded really, really well to that. There's also an emerging growth of direct-to-consumer brands. And so I just wanted to take a second to really encourage you, if you're a small to medium-sized business, to say this insight can be very impactful for you to help create that shift and capture some market share. Because, a lot of the major retailers have gone out of stock on things. And so the supply chains for the local small and medium-sized businesses have not been disrupted. You're not as reliant on China to provide you with your inventory. And so now is a great time for you to see a massive increase. And that also plays well with the slide that we saw before this, and that's how these two are connected. Consumers are saying, we don't care about big brands. That right now I'm making decisions and I'm okay with an off brand. And that's really an emerging opportunity for local. And so I will just say, we are seeing, with people being at home, obviously workout equipment, gym equipment, I'm sure you guys have all received communication. The caveat that I will say, and we unpack this also in some of our email sessions for the certificate program, the caveat to all this is that salesy approaches and promotions, very self-centered promotion, doesn't land well with consumers right now, right? And So the authenticity, the care and compassion has to come through in order for people to respond. Anything else you want to add there, Betsy?
No, I mean, that just, when you talk about corporate social responsibility, and you have seen the surge in that, even businesses that don't truly understand what corporate social responsibility entails are practicing it, in real time as part of their outreach and communication strategy. And that's things like having a percentage of your sales go toward a nonprofit, or having your employees, donate time to work at the local food bank, and talking about that, and having that as part of your communication strategy and your brand strategy. I mean, that resonates. It usually resonates very, very well. Most studies show that the more a company practices a corporate social responsibility strategy, the better off they are from a revenue standpoint. That more community outreach typically means more revenue and positive impact to the bottom line, as well as employee satisfaction. So, those are just very important things to include as part of your business strategy moving forward.
And to share it socially, like Betsy was saying, there's been a lot of really heartwarming campaigns about businesses who have shifted their production lines, right, to be able to respond with making masks or face shields for
right.
the community. And even a lot of, I bought my hand sanitizer from a distillery here in the community that I live in, and being able to be responsive to the community. They also, from the purchases that I made and other consumers like me, they donated, drums of this solution to the local hospital in the community that I live in. And so that's just a great example of capturing market share while also being responsive to the needs in the community. So
yeah, it's always good to do good. Now is a great time to do good for all the right reasons.
That's a good statement, Betsy. Okay, so this really gets into, all right, we've taken you through some social impact. We're moving now more into the economic impact of your business. And so when we start to think about e-business, we have a slide that'll really help break down what we hope the difference between e-business and e-commerce is. We talk about e-business as much more holistic. It includes things like online security and credit card fraud protection. As you guys know, Zoom, at the onset of COVID-19, experienced some cybersecurity concerns, right? And there was Zoom bombing. And so as a response to that, Zoom came out and said, okay, we're going to password protect meetings. Yeah. And so a lot of companies have instituted that as a policy. That's a real-time shift that you've seen insight to action, right? And Zoom responded immediately to that. There are also a lot of companies that are experiencing moving to digital transactions for the first time ever, and understanding the steps that you need to take to protect yourself from credit card fraud and protection is really critically important. There's also some legal ramifications around data privacy. So as you start to move your business more towards a digital platform, understanding, what kinds of information people, you're going to be collecting on your site traffic. And you're required as a business to provide that data privacy policy to them. And so, if you're struggling with how to do that, or you don't have one, right, we're going to talk about that in more detail in the certificate program. But, there's a lot of, state legislation that's coming out now. California, obviously one of the states that's kind of leading the way on that. So if you do business globally, as many of you guys do, there's also other GDPR global data policies and privacy policies that we also need to be mindful of. And so if you don't have a resident expert on your teams for that, be sure to come on back to the certificate program. The same thing for booking fees. A lot of your businesses are more service models, right? And so as you're thinking about how do I have a revenue stream when lots of people are canceling appointments right now, or I'm having to cancel, certain services. Well, one of the ways that you can think about that is a booking fee or a consultation fee. And so those are really important if you're more in the service industry. And, again, we can teach you how to do that, be able to take credit card transactions over your online, platform. If there's a lot of returns that your business is seeing, and that goes back to one of the data insights things that we're talking about. If you see that there's a massive influx on Amazon buying that happens late at night, and then you get a massive influx of things coming back to you via returns, you probably need to look at something like a chargeback policy or a restocking fee, right? That just helps you with some of your loss recovery as a business. Same thing for product warehousing and supply chain logistics. We talked a little bit about this earlier in the previous slide, but really watching your supply chain management very closely and understanding the impact that stockouts have on your business. Also taxes and tariffs, those fees, especially for things that you're importing right now. Maybe you need to look at the business mix and assortment of your products and determine if you're potentially losing margin on certain products, right? Or certain services. And then, also we're going to talk more in that certificate program, a lot more about search engine optimization, paid campaigns, pay-per-click strategies, and also additional digital marketing programs. But all of that combined is really to connect you with your customer, your employees, and then to be able to deliver better results, bottom line results to your shareholders or to your owners of the company.
So Dion, for the purposes of time, let's go ahead and do the live poll, but we will look at those answers in the question portion of the presentation to see if there's anything we need to address, but we are interested in that poll.
Yeah, so you guys should see a poll pop up now. So far, all right, the answers are coming in real time. The question is, are you conducting business online today? Mm-hmm. So it appears at this point from the answers that the vast majority of you are, which is phenomenal. And so we'll continue to let this poll play out. But Betsy, do you want to talk a little bit about the routes to market, any of that information?
Yeah, don't we have that as a chat, or is just the poll?
It's chat.
It's chat, okay.
Yeah, for the routes to market, you'll see some of those listed below, and we would love for you to comment in the chat. Just let us know, for those of you, looks like 85% or so of you are conducting business online.
Yeah.
And as you're conducting business, what are your routes to market? Do you have multiple routes to market? So that's business to business, business to consumer, direct to consumer. This next one is consumer to consumer. So that's an emerging, oh yay. So 85% of you are doing business online today. We're excited about that. And then 15% of you are no. So I think that slide just kind of shows you the range of digital fluency on this call. And so that's why we kind of took the approach of a 30,000 foot view for this discussion. And then, for those of you, whether you're a yes or a no on those poll results, we still encourage you to come on back to the certificate program, because we're going to get into detail and make sure that even if you are conducting business online today, that it's really optimized, and look for opportunities and additional enhancements that you can make. B to A is business to agency or administration, and then C to A is consumer to agency. And so a great example of that would be like, hey, I'm a consumer. I can go on to the Passport website and renew my passport. I can, get a TSA approved driver's license online. I don't have to go in, right? So that's kind of, even in service industries, You know, there are ways that you can transact online. All right.
Yep.
The
And
other,
one of my favorite things to share is a professor at Northwestern made a comment to me that it's no longer B to C or C to C or A to B or whatever. It's P to P. It's person to person. So again, the care and the concern theme rises to the top.
right, that's right. And then, you know, there are some of you that may say, you know, online business is never going to be right for me, and that's totally okay. But there are ways to digitally modify your business. And so we think about intake forms, and we think about workflow processes. We think about, you know, the way to process payments and people to interact with you via chat for customer service. Those are ways to digitally modify your business. All of that leading to top line growth.
Yeah. Hey, let's go on to the e-business and e-commerce slide. Yeah. And then we'll end with the risk assessment, and then we'll have time for some questions.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to unfortunately kind of blow through this, guys, because we're a little skinny on time, but we're really grateful for all the engagement and interaction we've had. E-business is inclusive of all business processes. And so if you got the invite for this particular session and you said, what is e-business versus e-com? What's the difference? This slide really addresses that. E-business is both the internal and external act of doing business online, and e-commerce is the buying and transacting piece. And so you can see a little bit of a breakdown. Both are aimed at cost savings, increases in efficiency, and increases in productivity. And so you'll get this slide as part of the end of this. But again, we're going to really talk to you about the nuts and bolts of e-commerce. I come from an e-commerce background as a global e-commerce VP and managed a vertical. So that's truly end to end. What's exciting about that is, you know, it starts, you know, early on at the R&D phase, raw materials, you know, forecasting, takes you all the way through to customer loyalty and advocacy for repurchase and brand management. So we're really excited about the course that's outlined, and we wanted to give you some practical, workable examples. And you jump in here, Betsy, but this is, you know, kind of a walking slide that we want to give to you guys as you go back and try to evangelize and implement what we talked about today. Understanding what's the strategic objective that you're trying to solve for within your company. What's the risk of not solving for that? And so this should be really a disruptive sort of a thought, like what happens? How does my business break down if I don't do this? And what are the outcomes that I want to happen? Like, what's the positive upside to this? How do I know, back to that data and insights piece, how do I know what my indicators are that things are either getting better or getting worse? And so list those here. And then, you know, we included a little chart there that says, you know, what's the likelihood of consequences? And then what are the management controls? What are the things that you can put into action, the steps that you can take to ensure that you're meeting your objectives? And then assign a resource to it, right? If it's important, then track it, measure it. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to leave you with today. That's a good resource for you as you start to think about transacting more of your business to e-business. And this is a great way for you to prioritize the steps and then action them within your organizations.
Okay, so just real quickly, Nan, do you want to speak to sort of part B of what we're doing today, and then we'll move into questions?
Yes. This is an outline of the new e-learning certificate course on e-business that we'll be offering next month. It's to be determined, but in the words of Dion, we'll be able to take back orders and process them. So even though the registration button is not live, you can email us at Think Clemson on our website. You know, just hit the email us button. These modules will be, there will be 6. they will be online, and they will be staged like, I'm going to say, once a month for, a certain period of time as you travel through this. It could be quicker, we don't know yet. And you'll earn a Clemson University certificate with CEUs, and you will also get access to Betsy and Dion. So, what could be better than that? And so with that, I'm going to thank everybody for attending. We're going to stay open for, live mic questions, but just very grateful for the opportunity to add some insight into the world of commerce today. All right.
Yeah. Before we open it up for questions, just a parting comment from me, and I'm sure Betsy, you'll want to say a few words here before we open it up for additional dialogue. My parting comment is that tomorrow is going to look very different from today. And Betsy and I are really thrilled that we had an opportunity to talk to you about how we reshape the future together. And just wanted to tell you how grateful we are that you spent some time with us right before holiday weekend. But we're thrilled and really honored that Clemson Center for Learning had us today. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
And
one more thing in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mention that the cost of the certificate, we've got COVID pricing, $750. So there you have it. It's very consumable. Okay, Now, Betsy, I've got that crass advertising over with.
Well, no, I was just going to say and it will be delivered via a series of videos, some office hours where we'll be available to answer questions or provide, some type of direction. And there'll be some offline assignment in terms of readings and different things. So it'll be a mix of how it's delivered. But mainly it'll be delivered in a way that is convenient to you or your schedule. So in having taken these courses before, I've learned that it's best to be able to do it when you can do it. And so we're modeling that in the design of this course. So yeah, any questions or?
Betsy, I think there was you had mentioned the 4 A's.
Yes.
Can you go over that again?
Yeah, so I'm just typing those in now. So assess, analyze, articulate, and act. So
Okay.
obviously assess being, you're assessing your situation, you're assessing your target audiences, you're just assessing and gathering as much information as you can, data, analytics. It will also point out, where you're lacking in data and analytics when you do the assessment. So it's a very, very good exercise to go through. You use that then to analyze, what am I seeing here? What trends? What are the risks? What are the strengths? You can do the SWOT analysis in the analyze phase. And then the articulate phase that's when you actually put a proposed plan together and share that with different stakeholders to get reactions to see how you need to maybe, revise or shift or change things based on those target audience or key stakeholder reactions. And then of course the ACT is putting it into place, the actual execution. And the one thing that's not on here is you want to shampoo, rinse, repeat. So after you act, you have to evaluate. So and then go back to the assess phase accordingly. So my kids will tell you that I have them follow this formula, and it seems to work out pretty well on both a personal and professional level. So it's just a little helpful, easy to remember tool.
Yeah, thanks for writing it out. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I would say if you know Betsy, then that's got classic Betsy written all over it.
Yeah.
So, open mic, any questions? We've got 22 people on, and if you'd like to stay on and ask, feel free.
Yeah, just a final comment while we're waiting for, people to kind of engage with us here with questions. And it's okay if you don't have questions. We wanted to just say again, thank you for the engagement. This makes a platform like this so much easier and more personal. So we appreciate the connection.
Yep. Our intent is to be as helpful and as possible, and that's through education. So
I
like
have
that.
a kind of a comment, and I don't know if this really, I mean, I just know myself, I don't want to print anything on paper anymore. Like, I feel like I'm going all digital, and when somebody says now you have to print it out and take it somewhere, I'm like, that's a barrier for me. And I just, I feel like I can do an e-signature now. Can I not sign it electronically and email it back to you? That's so much easier than me having to print it out, get in the car, and even drop it off, So I didn't know. I mean, I think that there are some processes that businesses might have where they're like, okay, print this out and, we can come out and get it, but it's still that, for me personally, as a consumer, that's a barrier. I'm like, I don't want to do that,
Right. Yeah, we definitely have heard a lot of people saying, DocuSign, Adobe Sign, tools like that are really important. And what's really powerful is when you link those documents to a workflow internally, either the notification part that somebody has taken action on signing something, a document electronically, and then that prompting a thank you email, or if somebody hasn't taken a step to sign something, that you have a reminder, right, that goes back to them and says you have a document that's waiting for you, right? And so that's not only a tool, the technology piece, but attaching a workflow solution to it as well.
yeah. And then just how all of this sort of snowballs, you have to consider the security aspect of that also, and the data privacy. So that's where, that's why we've broken out the certificate course like we have, because everything is really, it's all intertwined and related in terms of operations, processes, customer experience. I mean, it all has to be integrated. And that's really the key, is the inventory and the successful integration of whatever that customer journey needs to be.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a really good call out. Thank you, Sally. And I think that's an example of an entryway, right? And so a lot of people say, well, I'm a small business, or I'm a medium-sized business, and I don't have, it's great, Dion, that you're from ScanSource, but you guys have access to a lot more funds than I would as a small business owner. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what Betsy and I did in the future course is really to take, key learnings and technologies that larger companies have, and be able to scale those delivery mechanisms and concepts and best practices to right size them for your businesses. And so that's why a lot of the homework and reading assignments are going to be incorporated into the certificate program, is because coming out of that program, you really will have a walking deck for, how your business, right? It'll be a workbook of how your business can take this and apply it individually to your certain situation. So, you're right, Sally, like one of the first entryways into digitizing your business would be something like, forms. And how do I eliminate the back and forth, right? The paper shuffling. It's really about how can I remove steps to make a better experience and to close that gap faster.
Okay.
Yeah, Sally, I just sent you the link to that EY article that outlined the new and emerging customer segments that we covered.
Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah, and then I think Joseph also included something else in the chat, a couple of good resources, and articles from for retailer COVID-19 responses, and then also an article on how marketers can craft a culture of digital fluency or data fluency. So some additional great resources that you guys are sharing. I think that's what makes sessions like this really, really powerful is, us getting together, building a community and sharing ideas.
Yeah.
All right. So I think
Sounds, yeah. We've covered it.
Go ahead, Nan.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like we've covered it.
Yeah.
Think so. Thank you guys. We appreciate your engagement.
Yeah, go get your lunch. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful holiday weekend. Thanks, everybody.
We'll send out a
Stay
link
safe.
of the recording, so so look for that soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.